that's out there. And look, Nico's dad, in the short term, has screwed over his son.
Sure. Cost him at least $1.5 million.
And also has moved into another team. It's not going to be as good a situation to make him shine, possibly in the eyes of the NFL. Just greed.
And he needs to vastly improve if he wants to go pro.
And when you could not do what was asked of you in a very quarterback-friendly system at Tennessee, it's a you thing.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. So when you read that deep dive on these quarterback dads, then you read this article about LaNorris Sellers by Bruce Feldman, The Athletic. I've never met Norris Sellers. I want to hug him.
Yeah, seems like a no-nonsense kind of guy.
He just reminds me of like, just like the old school dad, right?
Sure.
And I was kidding with Bill and Preston this morning. We were talking about it. And the thing that hit me with Norris was when he looked at LaNorris and said, what do you need $8 million for? You're 19. You don't need $8 million. What are you doing? And I started laughing because I can see my dad. My dad grew up in the hills of North Carolina, didn't wear shoes till he was 40, used an outhouse till he was 50, spent 5 years in the 8th grade. My dad would look at me and go, boy, you don't need $8 million. You know what? You're going to screw it up and just pee it away anyway. Well, you ain't smart enough to have $8 million. And my dad would go, I ain't smart enough to have $8 million. Just forget it.
Yeah.
But the difference is, what I think is impressive out of all of it, first was Norris. Mm-hmm. I just love the, you don't worry about all that. You got a good situation here. Last time I checked, you're not playing. You're getting something from South Carolina.
Sure, he's compensated well.
He's getting compensated. You don't need to go chase $8 million. You're fine. These people are taking care of you.
Yeah.
But what really impressed me was the 19-year-old LaNorris Sellers going, okay, Pops.
Yes, Dad.
Okay, Pops, whatever you say. Okay,
yeah.
Dad. Because I know the 19-year-old version of me. I go, Dad, I appreciate it, but let me check my driver's license. I'm 19. What's the age of an adult in the state of Maryland?
Yeah, and guess what? You probably would have peed away that $8 million just like your dad said.
Absolutely, I would have.
Like, wow, I got that check a week ago, and now it's all gone.
You give a blue-collar kid from Essex in Maryland, right, $8 million?
Now 19-year-old Terry Ford has 3 Ferraris, a house in Malibu, and a lot of beer.
And a pet llama. And, by the way, a Swedish housemaid.
Yes. And now I'm broke.
Got nothing. So there were 2 things that impressed me. A was Norris, and B was LaNorris going, okay, Pops. And I can see him going to his mom, Cheryl. Pop said no way on that.
Yeah.
So.
And again, the perspective of like, hey, you're in a good situation here.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the SEC. You go out there and have a good season, you're going to be a first-round pick this upcoming year, or you're going to make even more money in your NFL career. Mm-hmm. So, yes, at this moment, maybe you're missing out on $1 million or $2 million over the course of a season compared to what you might make here at South Carolina. Mm-hmm. But in the long term, being here is probably going to pay off better for you. I just think the idea that let's sit down for a minute and think about this logically first. Yes. Let's look at the big picture instead of the $8 million, woo! Which again, the 19-year-old Terry Ford's again. I don't fault a lot of these kids for doing that because we would have all been in the same situation. Like, oh, you want to pay me this bag? Yeah, I'll come. My God, where's your school? The middle of nowhere? I don't care. Where Idaho? Yeah, I'm coming. Oh, the University of Kabul. Okay, I'm good. I think that it's just very impressive that. It wasn't let's go chase the bags. Let's not go run around and just go after the money and the dollars. And I thought just the idea that the way that household evolved as Norris and Cheryl were his parents and LaNorris and obviously, the kids, the respect. Yeah. The respect LaNorris had for his mom and dad and what their wisdom, they would drop down on him about things. Remember, Mom said, you sure you want to go to Syracuse? Sure. These coaches might not be there, and then you're stuck at Syracuse. And by the way, I'll throw in with Cheryl. Syracuse is a dump. Anyway, and it doesn't get above 75 degrees at any point during the year. The city is not great. The university's awesome, but the city is... So, at the end of the day, just the parents... stopping everything and going, let's
Let's just chill everything and talk.
Yeah, let's think about this.
Here's what I think. And the way these, like LaNorris, listened, ran it through his head, respected what they were saying, and just how that family does their business was so impressive to me the more I thought about it.
Sure.
Because look, we're all in families. Me and you and your family. I got a family. I was a kid in a family.
Yep.
You know, Dave's family left him on the side of the road when he was young, and they threw a ball in the woods and then drove away. I was waiting for that story from Dave. Well, when I was a kid.
They expected the Partridge family to adopt him.
Right. So it's just the idea that, in family dynamic, just this whole respect of everything, the full circle of respect that went on here in that household, I want to have a tear.
Sure.
And that's one thing I took away from this was just the idea that, the dad is so grounded that he goes, do you really need, you're 19, you don't need $8 million, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, with South Carolina giving what, 3.6? I believe it was 3.6, 3.7, somewhere like that.
Somewhere
in
like
that neighborhood.
Yeah, it was nice.
So here's the other part of this too, and maybe this was in the conversation as well. We just weren't privy to it, and we were discussing this morning. Bill Preston and I. Okay, let's say it's 3.6 for number sake. Okay, so the Auburn offer is $4 million a year for 2 years.
Yes.
Okay, if you play on the level that you believe you're going to play, you're not around for year 2.
Right.
So basically, if you stay at South Carolina, you're in an offense that's being built for your skill set. You're already here. You got the support system. You know the lay of the land. You dig the culture. Everything about it is positive to you. Why go there for basically another $300 to $400,000? Because if you play the way you're supposed to play at South Carolina, you're never going to see year 2 of the deal anyway.
Yeah.
And maybe that was part of the thing. The families go, "Hey, slow your roll. Let's break this down real quick."
Sure.
There's really not incentive because if you are the player that we all know you are and you are, you got one more year at South Carolina, then you go off and be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
So there could have been also that behind it. We just don't know. But if you break down the numbers, that's really not that much of a wow once you look at it.
And again, his earning potential is only just beginning in his football career. Because again, he's going to have the opportunity to go hopefully very high in the draft next year and hopefully hang around the league for a long time, as opposed to, a Diego Pavia, who we've talked about doesn't have much pro prospects, which is why he sued for an extra year of eligibility. He's going to try and get all that he can while he's in college. And yeah, if he was offered maybe $400,000 or $500,000 more to go somewhere else, he may have jumped ship and gone, because again, he's trying to earn as much as he can in the short term, which I don't blame him for, because again, that's the nature of the game right now, and get what you can while you can. But LaNorris Sellers has the opportunity to earn a lot of money for a very, very long period of time if his career pans out the way we think it can.
You can play the long game here, basically, and you can kind of look at it in different stages and levels where you're like a Diego Pavia. He might sue again and get another year for some reason.
I mean, given the track record, he could play for the next 10 years for all we know.
Like Zakai Ziegler in Tennessee. I want another year. Why? Because I want another year.
Do you know what they're going to pay me if I come back for another year? That's why.
Come on, man. This whole 4 or 5 year thing is ready. You are infringing on my what?
Antitrust, my ability to earn.
You are capping my time in college.
Hey, listen, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
I was getting ready to say, why not, man? All right, we will. Just so good. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare. I totally lost where I was laughing so hard. Mock drafts are coming out because the NBA draft soon. We have 1 or 2 games left in the NBA season. It's mock draft season. Colin Murray Boyles has fallen a bit in the latest ESPN mock draft. We'll tell you about that coming up on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, the orphan that was David Dare. We're here till 3 on the game.
2. Swing and a miss! Greatness from Gage! A no-hitter!
Gage Wood yesterday. Woo! That was something else, man.
Man, it's, one of the more impressive feats in sports is to be able to no-hit someone. And it gets to the point watching a game like that, it doesn't matter who you're rooting for. You start cheering for it, right? Because it's so neat to watch it in person because it's so rare. They're like, again, I didn't care Arkansas or Murray State who won, but by the 8th inning, I'm like, yeah, let's keep going. Get those last 6 outs.
Yeah, I was rooting for Murray State 'cause I just wanted to see them continue on because it's such a great story. But, yeah, once you get to the 9th inning and the dude's got 3 outs and you're like, yeah, shut the door on this thing, man.
Again, is Murray State going to mount some kind of magical comeback? Probably not.
Probably not. It was something else. Like, to your point of, I remember when I was a youngin', went to an Oriole game. Wilson Alvarez, the Chicago White Sox, was no-hitting the Orioles. And as the game went on, like the ballpark was split.
Yeah.
Half the ballpark was going, we need a rally, need a comeback. O's need to get something going here, break this no-hitter. And the other half of the crowd was going like this. Never seen a no-hitter before.
That's the thing. It's like if you get to see it in person, you're like, wow, I got to experience something special. Again, we do the greatest day in the history of the world. We talk about Nolan Ryan did his 7th no-hitter on this day. Like, they become moments and events.
Yeah, I mean, if you're at a no-hitter, you'll always remember it.
Sure.
And so by the 9th inning, it was such a weird, it was like surreal where, like Alvarez would throw a strike, part of the crowd would cheer. Alvarez threw 2 straight balls, part of the crowd would cheer. It was just very bizarre. He did throw the no-hitter, by the way.
Yeah.
So, but being at one, to your point, even the home crowd starts go. Some of the home crowd goes this is history, man.
And let's go to the dugout perspective here. If you were getting no hit, if you're on the team that has not had a hit through the first 7 or 8 innings,
Awful.
Morale is very low.
Yes.
I got no hit one time in Little League. We talk about that. Every Little League had their like Babe Ruth or Barry Bonds or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
We had a kid. His name was Devin McDonald. Funny enough, he played on my team the fall prior. We were crappy, but he was amazing. And I think, and most of that spring team was most of the same team that he was on. And I think he hated us so much that fall, he took out his frustration by no hitting us.
Nice.
Like, to the point, nobody made contact. It wasn't like we're fouling balls off. No, he whiffed every single one of us and we played 6 innings, but 18 outs instead of 27.
It's funny. Usually a no-hitter, there's a great defensive play.
Nope.
The great defensive play there was the catcher catching the 3rd strike.
If his other 7 teammates didn't take the field, it wouldn't have mattered. And I'm pretty sure he hit a home run in that game, too.
That's one of those where he walks out for the 6th inning and nobody else does.
Well, that's the thing is like, the first couple of innings, like, okay, all right, guys, we still got a chance here. By the 4th inning, even coach is like, all right, get this thing over with. We're not coming back.
I was never on a team that got no hit, but I've been on teams where the pitcher was just dominant. And you just, at some point, you wouldn't say it out loud.
Yeah.
But as you were walking back to the dugout again after him making you look stupid, you're like, I got no chance against this guy today.
It gets to the point where, again, like the coaches don't even say anything. It's like, hey, you're just having a great day. What can you say?
What are you going to do? And Gage Wood and here's Wood after the game. Let's get cut 3, Dave. Gage Wood on the near perfect game. It was a no-hitter. And Wood, first thing he says when he's being talked to by the on-field reporter, because there is no sideline, the on-field reporter asked him about his thoughts on the perfect game, and here's what Gage Wood said first thing out of his mouth.
You just threw the 3rd no-hitter in the history of this event. How do you describe your emotions?
I shouldn't have hit the guy. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Boom. I love that. I love that.
You think that kept him up last night?
Yes. It will drive him crazy. Even when he is like old Gage Wood and he's sitting around with his kids and his grandkids and everybody else, and they bring this up, he's going to go like this, well, I'll tell you something.
Hit that guy.
Shouldn't have hit that damn guy. And that's what he's going to do. It will haunt him forever that he hit that guy.
Grandpa, you made history for only the 3rd person ever to do it first in 65 years. Yeah, but it could have been perfect.
It wasn't perfect. Hit that guy. Yeah, it'd be on his tombstone. I shouldn't have hit that guy.
I shouldn't hit that guy.
I shouldn't have hit that guy. And the other thing is he struck out 19.
Yes.
No one in Major League Baseball has ever struck out 19 in a no-hitter.
Yeah.
I think the highest in a no-hitter was 17 in Major League Baseball. I mean, there's been 20 strikeout games like Kerry Wood had one. There's been multiple 20, I think Clemens. So there's been multiple 20 strikeout games in the majors, but they weren't no-hitters.
Yeah.
What Wood did yesterday, wasn't even done in the majors, was putting a no-hitter together with 19 strikeouts.
I think the outfielders are playing their Nintendo Switches while he's up there pitching.
Absolutely. I mean, there are games like on the flip side, when you were playing in the field and your pitcher was just killing them, I mean, you're out there talking to your other outfielders. You're
thinking
yelling
about
to
what
each
you're
other.
going to have for dinner.
Right.
You know, looking around.
Oh, God, yeah.
Occasionally you hear a ball come off bat. Oh, it's foul.
Right, and you were like, and you haven't had a ball hit to you in like 6 innings because nobody can even get the ball out of the infield.
And then when you do have one, like you almost forget how to back step first, then come in. Like your brain is not prepared.
Because by the time you get to the middle innings, you're not on your tiptoes anymore. The ball's your feet, because you always teach as an outfielder to be on the balls of your feet on every pitch.
He's cooking. He's got it.
You're flat-footed. You're standing around. You're like, wow, that girl's hot in that third row, and you're not even paying attention anymore.
And that one coach, look alive.
It's like, come on, bro. There hasn't been a ball hit past the pitcher in 6 innings. Seriously? So, Gage Wood, congrats, man. And Arkansas moves on. Remember, they're trying to come out of the losers bracket in Omaha.
And that, I think, adds to this because of what the stakes were. You had to win that game. There was no margin for error. And you go out there and have a legendary performance in the process.
And, you know, Murray State have been scoring a ton of runs. Also, their offense have been averaging like 10 runs a game. LSU, last time I looked, 7-3 on UCLA as this game moves into the later innings in Omaha. Game got suspended by weather last night. They're re-racking it. So that's going on right now in Omaha. All right, so Colin Murray Boyles obviously has been mocked by everyone as a first-round pick. And he still is, but for a while here, I've been seeing him sitting at like the 10 spot, getting drafted by the Houston Rockets at 10.
Yep.
And now he has fallen in the mock. This doesn't mean anything, but it's just a mock draft. Past San Antonio as well, because I saw some mocks with him at San Antonio at 14. Now, look, if you're going to fall in the draft, this ain't a bad place. 15 to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who might be crowning themselves NBA champions here really soon.
That's a pretty good situation to go into.
And just this is the capsule, and just in case you don't know how the NBA people are looking at Colin Murray Boyles, or the draft folks. Boyles has been one of the most divisive players among executives we've spoken with. This is ESPN. Some are enamored with his defensive versatility, all-around production, and he is seen as an outstanding NBA role player, while others harp on his limited positional size and lack of perimeter shooting, looking at those two things as factors that can limit his projectable ceiling. That's the thing with Colin Murray Boyles. We talked about this when he was playing last year. His height is a shooting guard or a small forward in the NBA. He does not have the skill set of a shooting guard or a small forward in the NBA in today's basketball.
Right.
He's got the skill set of a big in the body of a not big. But what he can do, the positives are he guards multiple positions. He can guard 3 positions on the floor, maybe 4, depending on what team you're playing. He passes the ball really well. And he can take it to the cup. He can get to the basket. He's got a skill set inside the three-point line where he can score. But the problem is those things that led him to buckets in college are going to lead to block shots in the NBA because, again, you've got athletic freaks like Giannis flying around. Look at Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren is 9'10", is guarding shooting guards on the perimeter. Look at Victor Wembanyama. That is a freak of nature, a genetic weirdo, if you've ever seen it. A guy 7'4" with a 30-foot wingspan who, by the way, can dribble between his legs and shoot threes.
Yep.
So Colin Murray Boyles at 6'7", or whatever with the shoe we did the one day, 6'6" and 19 quarters or whatever it was, 6'7" and 2/3 or something. Colin Murray Boyles, height is the thing. Size the thing. The fact that he's going to, if he could expand his game to the three-point line and get more of a perimeter-oriented offensive arsenal, that would help him a ton.
Yeah.
But he's going to go in the top 15. It's just people are really split on him because, again, 3-point shooting is not his friend right now. And, he's not as tall as you'd like him to be. All right, halftime show. Just in case you just woke up, we'll get to that next here on The Game. Just in case you just woke up, get you caught up with some of the headlines in the world of sports. Here at the noon hour, College World Series, LSU still up 7-3 on UCLA. Are we in seventh inning now? They're in commercial
you
break.
believe they might be in the top of the eighth now, but yes, LSU in control. Tough spot to be put in, having to play potentially 2 games in one day. I believe the loser will play again tonight in the loser bracket. So, and it's one thing to play 2 games kind of back to back, where in the season you have a doubleheader, roughly 45 minutes to an hour apart. But playing a second game some 5-6 hours later, that's a lot to ask for whoever comes up short in this one.
And especially elimination game, because that's what it is. You want a double elimination. Now you're UCLA and you do lose this game. Okay, now you got to go ramp it back up in 6 hours.
Yes, that's correct. Because, so LSU, if LSU wins, they would advance to tomorrow, I believe, to play Coastal, if I'm looking at this
correctly. They're in the winners bracket, right. It would be LSU and Coastal. In the losers bracket would be, right now you have Arkansas, UCLA. That's the losers bracket, right?
Yes.
If this thing holds up the way it seems to be.
Yes, so UCLA and Arkansas play tonight. Loser is the 3rd team eliminated so far. Yes.
So we'll see where this thing goes. Right now, Coastal looks great. LSU's look really good. We'll see where it goes from there. But so that's going on right now in the College World Series. We talked about yesterday, Gage Wood and his 19 strikeouts and the no-hitter, and all I can think about is, I shouldn't have hit that guy. So that's where everything stands right now at the College World Series. Also, NBA Finals last night. Oklahoma City gets out to a big lead, up by 14 at the half. Indiana cut it to 2 in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
And then Jalen Williams made a ginormous 3 to put the lead back to 5. Williams himself had a phenomenal night. Career playoff high, I believe, was 40. Oklahoma City wins 120-109. The defense got ramped up in the last 5 minutes. Thunder started getting some steals. Also, Indiana was really sloppy with the rock.
Yeah, they couldn't hang on to it. Halliburton got dinged up early in the game. He just looked uncomfortable for most of the night, even when he came back in.
Yeah.
Obviously, that has an effect when he's been arguably your best player through the playoff run so far. But I keep going back to, I feel like Friday was their opportunity. They had a chance to go up 3-1. They missed that. OKC now up 3-2. And it's like, all right, now I got to go out there and win 2 more games.
You think about that, what you just said. You had a legit shot to go up 3-1, and now you're down 3-2 in a blink of an eye.
Yeah. By the way, this is the first time they've lost back-to-back games since mid-March.
They haven't been down. They have not been down in any series in the playoffs.
No, because they always answer back after losing.
And I go, and it's not as simple as this. But if you're Rick Carlisle, there's probably a party that goes, okay, we lost by 11, and we were in this thing, and we cut it to 2 in the fourth quarter, and our guy was 0 for 6 from the floor and wasn't playing at 100%. If our guy's 100% playing at his normal level, you can make a case we steal this game.
Sure.
But it's not the way it went down. So you got to hope Halliburton is a lot more healthy for game 6 in Indy. And if not, your season's over.
Yeah, pretty much.
And, I picked Oklahoma City in 6 before it started. But I'll say this. I'm feeling like we're going to get a game 7. It feels like this kind of a series. I just feel like Indiana will step it up at home, and they'll get a W, and they'll take this thing back to Oklahoma City, and the Thunder will win on their home court.
Yeah. Well, the league's going to manipulate
Talking to the refs.
What the refs are going to call in game number 6 to ensure we get a game 7.
Right. Here's a manipulation. Remember to call everything on Oklahoma City. We need a game 7.
Pretty much.
Because the ratings have been down.
Tinfoil hat looks good on you, by the way.
You like it? It beats the heck out of these headphones. The ratings have been down. And this always goes to our point of, in the NBA, it does matter, just like Major League Baseball, the market size. Or the teams playing.
Or the star on the team.
I was going to say, that in the NBA, it's a star.
You have budding stars like Halliburton, like SGA, but they're not the household names of the LeBrons or, the Durants or Giannis even from a couple years ago. It's just not the same.
And that's the other point. And it's not so much in Major League Baseball, because the Major League Baseball does a terrible job cultivating stars or marketing them for that matter. But in the NBA, star power does work. And in this series, you don't have the star that the casual fan knows. Like someone says, "Hey man, what do you think of SGA?" I remember I caught that once, and I had to get go to the emergency room.
So Preston has me pull this a lot, but SGA, Holmgren, and I think it's Jalen Williams are in that AT&T commercial. They're doing the What a Pro wants.
Awful.
And I really asked him, because we were in here watching it one day, I'm like, do you think the average person, because there's no indication on who they are in these commercials. I'm like, do you think the average person knows who any of them are? If you're just watching on TV and you're not a sports fan? Probably not.
And that's the point of this series, is nobody knew any of these guys. Nobody knew Tyler Halliburton. Sounds like some weird, defense contractor.
Halliburton sounds like a fish.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like an NBA budding star. And in Oklahoma City, the MVP of the league, most of your casual fans have no clue who he is.
Sure.
And, Chet Holmgren, they wouldn't know Chet Holmgren. They look at him, they go, is that the guy from the Addams Family, the butler? They don't know.
Is that my art teacher from high school?
Right. They don't know. And Jalen Williams is, he's really put himself on the map to basketball people. Some basketball people didn't know who Jalen Williams was, to be fair.
Sure.
Because there's a couple of Jalen Williams running around. There's multiple Jalen Williams.
That's the problem. You have to differentiate who is who.
Which Jalen Williams is this?
Look, for the most part, most of these guys are likable, which is a good thing. But again, they don't have that wow pop that, hey, did you hear that SGA and Halliburton are squaring off in the finals? Who?
Exactly. And so it's just one of those things that's hurt the series, and the fact they're too small. They're two of the smaller markets in the NBA, Oklahoma City and Indiana, and that just brings for ratings to be down. Last year you had Boston and you had Luka. It's just different. But the one thing I will say, and I'm sorry, look, Oklahoma City and Indiana have passionate fan bases, and I love seeing the passion of those fans. But doesn't it look creepy where they're all wearing the same T-shirt?
It's different.
It looks like a cult.
A little bit.
It feels like a cult meeting.
Like the Warriors fans were good for that a couple years ago. And really, both these fan bases have done a really good job of having the crowds involved and getting in on the T-shirt trick and stuff like that. It is, if you're not used to it, I guess it can be a little unsettling.
Whenever I see a fan base do it, I go, I'm sorry. That's just massively creepy. I know they're laying on the chair.
Sure.
And you get there and you put it on. They didn't call each other up and go, hey Edgar, you got the T-shirt? No, I know that they put the T-shirts on the chair and they all put them on. And it's just weird.
How do they guarantee you have the right size? What if I go to my seat and it's like a 3XL? What do I do then?
Or let's flip it. It's a small and I need a 3XL.
Yeah, then what?
Nice halter top there, Billy.
You got a booth I can go swap this out at?
It's just bad. All right, last thing, and just in case you just woke up, you know about the Rafael Devers trade yesterday or Sunday?
Yeah, 2 days ago.
Where the Boston Red Sox sent an upper-level offensive player in Rafael Devers to San Francisco and didn't get a wow package in return. The Red Sox upper management met with the media yesterday, and they basically said, look, they called it this, we weren't aligning with Rafael Devers. Here's what it says. Basically, Devers' attitude was poison, and we had to get him the hell out of here.
We're sick of him.
We can't have it.
Great of a player as he is, he's a headache to deal with.
Right, we can't have a guy who is openly being divisive.
Sure.
We just can't have it. We can't have a guy telling us he's not going to play a position. We can't have a guy who, despite should know that the guy they brought in is much better than him at a position, that he fights back. It's all about himself.
Yep.
You don't win with it. Especially baseball. Chemistry is so important in baseball. You can't have that guy. And that's why, really, the Red Sox, they didn't get a lot back in return, but they didn't care.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the contract.
He's not our problem anymore.
No, they wanted him out of the clubhouse. This was, in their mind, addition by subtraction when it comes to the culture. It just was. Bottom line. All right, so that's in case you just woke up. Firehouse Sub text the hours next, 803-404-6100 as we are rolling the halftime show with David Ayer and Terry Ford and Tyler Head until 3 on the game. All right, early game, or at least Bill Gunner will be at Liberty on the Lake on Friday for a good cause. A lot of good causes. So the early game will be hanging out in Lake Murray on Friday from 6 to 9 here on the game. Also, you can check out the game audio on demand podcasting, 1075thegame.com, and our video on demand podcasting at the Game TV Radio on YouTube. It's sponsored by Modern Exterminating. Like always, our on demand little shorts, our podcasting, all that stuff sponsored by our buds at Modern Exterminating. All right, Firehouse sub text the hour 803-404-6100 real quick. LSU has gone to the bullpen. I think they're still up 7-3 as they're trying to close out the winner's bracket game against UCLA. They bring in Cooper Williams, sub 2 ERA, strike out an inning. Whip is all right, too. So LSU trying to close the door on UCLA and move forward in the winner's bracket at the College World Series. What you got there on the old Firehouse sub text line, man?
Bill gives us a correction on the bracket. Coastal and LSU are on different sides. Coastal will play the winner of Louisville and Oregon.
Okay.
And then LSU, if LSU wins, they'll play the winner of the UCLA-Arkansas elimination game tonight. So they will go to tomorrow to wait for a one-loss team to play them.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I remember now.
I wasn't looking at I was looking at the schedule, not the bracket.
Yeah, and thanks, Bill. We appreciate that. Yeah, also I remember the guys on SiriusXM's college sports channel were talking about to the part of the Coastal's bracket. Who would they be better off playing, or who had a better chance of beating them, Louisville or Oregon?
Yes.
And they were saying, because the thing about Coastal, and these guys are talking about, is they're like old school. They pitch and they play defense and they don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
You have to go beat them because they're not going to beat themselves.
Sure, and their offensive numbers compared to everybody else in the College World Series, not overly amazing. They're in the hundreds in a lot of categories, but that pitching, led by Matt Williams, former pitching coach here, is just nasty.
That pitching is phenomenal, and they got a couple guys on that staff that will pitch in pro ball.
Yeah.
And because they were also talking about, too, they go, like a school typically, and Coastal, look, I know that they refuse to play the Cinderella card, and I understand why. But a school in the mid-majors, and they were talking about this on the college sports channel, a lot of the mid-majors will have certain types of pitchers, like guys who have some, either they throw from a weird arm angle, or they got really good breaking stuff, or they have a certain type of, funky breaking pitch. It's their out pitch that, no one has seen. And in this type of situation, they become unhittable because you've never faced them before, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, no. Coastal's got dudes, legit dudes that are going to take the ball, step on the rubber, and they're just going to come after you.
Yeah.
And so it's different from a lot of mid-majors.
And obviously offense is important, but when you get this deep into a baseball tournament, you'd rather have pitching.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you need to score runs, but like if you don't have pitching to hold other teams at bay, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, and then the defensive piece of this, too, that Coastal doesn't make errors.
No.
And fundamentally in the field, they're not making mistakes like throwing the wrong bases, overthrowing cutoff men, just things that can lead to disaster. Basically, Coastal forces you to beat them because they're not beating themselves. So appreciate the text because you are correct.
Yes.
You are correct. And if you look at that like Louisville, Oregon setup, they were talking about the Oregon State, rather. They talked about the other night when I was listening, they think that Louisville doesn't have the pitching to beat Coastal. Louisville's got a lot of offense. They won't have the pitching.
Right.
So, but let's put it this way. Everybody on that channel was talking about, Coastal's legit.
Yeah.
Coastal's got a real chance to walk away dogpiling, man.
One more win and they're in the finals.
Absolutely. All right. We'll come back in here and talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on The Game. We always talk about the nest in the Vista on Gadsden because, look, I'm not saying this just because, I'm supposed to. If you want to do something to your home or even to your car, anything that, matters to you when it comes to what you own, are you just going to go get somebody that has no experience? No, of course not. You want people who know what's up, people who understand what it takes to get the job done for you and what you're looking to get accomplished. The Nest has 70 years of experience sitting there in that beautiful, spacious showroom, and you call. It's so simple. It's so easy. You just call them at 803. Oh, my gosh, I just lost it. Can you believe that? 803-978-2025. You make that call, you set up an appointment, you tell them your budget and your vision, they'll get it done for you at the Nest in Gadsden in the Vista. All right, time to just yap some football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Ayer. We just got an injury update we'll get to in a couple of minutes.
We're not as young as we used to be.
No, we'll get to that. First of all, though, all right, so Landon Duckworth is a thing.
Great name, by the way.
I love that name.
Like the NIL potential with Duckworth, sky high.
Oh, 100%. So Landon Duckworth, it's down to Auburn and South Carolina. Duckworth made another unofficial visit to Auburn here recently. There's talk he will come to South Carolina for an unofficial visit as well.
Because this weekend's the last one
Right.
for the summer where he could.
Now, the word is July could be the target date for Duckworth to make his commitment. And again, it's a verbal. We know, we get it.
Because he was at one time verbal to
South Carolina, yep.
2 years ago, very early in the process, and then decommitted.
Now, your thought is, well, Auburn's throwing bags because that's what Auburn's.
They already
Auburn
tried to
did it
throw
when
bags at one
Hey,
quarterback.
Auburn did it when it was illegal, so you know they're doing it when it's legal.
Yeah.
And
By
then
the way,
obviously they threw $8 million worth of bags. They tried to at LaNorris Sellers.
$200K for Cam Newton. What a steal.
I know you think about that now. Allegedly. So we'll see where it ends up. Right now, people feel like South Carolina is still a little bit ahead of Auburn in this thing, but you never truly know until the hats hit the table.
Yeah,
And then that's not concrete either until you sign the letter of intent.
sure.
But, if you could get Duckworth and you get him in the fold and then you see what goes on with LaNorris Sellers, and if Sellers plays the way we believe he's going to play and he moves on, and then you have Duckworth class of 26, if I'm correct.
That's correct. So he'd be a year behind.
Right, and he would
Cutter
come
Woods.
in, and then you have a Cutter Woods and an Aaron Nolan situation, and Duckworth in a perfect world doesn't play his freshman year,
Right.
so he's your starter in 27.
It's
Does that make sense?
It's so hard to project
I know.
quarterback rooms.
It is, isn't it? Because, they just transfer.
Well, and that's kind of the funny thing, assuming LaNorris Sellers plays good enough this year to go to the NFL draft in 26, I think a lot of us are already saying, all right, well, either Aaron Nolan or Cutter Wood's going to win the job, and the other guy's going to transfer. Because that's just kind of the nature of how it goes. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you're kind of led to believe that's how it usually goes. And, if you get into a situation where both those guys decided to stay and Duckworth is here, it's like, okay, how do you balance these three guys that close together as far as their eligibility? And I don't know, maybe revenue sharing will change this, but NIL kind of got rid of the guy willing to wait around 3-4 years for that 1 year opportunity. It still happens occasionally, but it's not as prevalent as it once was. I don't know if that returns or not, but again, when you look at a quarterback room with three guys within 2-3 years of each other, it's like, this just isn't going to work for keeping all these guys.
I feel like, and you're right, maybe the rev share slows it down some. I don't think it'll ever stop because that transfer portal, that mistress, she calls to you, and you'll get a chance to maybe start somewhere else.
And again, if another school values you, the 5-star that's now a backup somewhere, as worthy of, $1 million to be their starting quarterback, they'll pay you that, and you'll probably come.
Right, for an example, Aaron Nolan was a 4-star coming out of high school, put up stupid, crazy numbers in high school, didn't want to wait around at Ohio State behind Julian Sayin, who was the 5-star, because the Wonder Boy starting
the
quarterback
guy
this year.
on his exact same class. They both would have been redshirt freshmen this year, so you essentially got passed over.
Yeah, so you got to go, and I get it. So you come to South Carolina, let's play the game. Let's just pick Aaron Nolan because he's here because of transfer, because of transfer portal. All right, so Aaron Nolan comes in here, and let's just go through this. Let's say Duckworth comes in, and you feel like Duckworth could be the starter in 27. And so now it's Aaron Nolan, Cutter Woods. Let's say Cutter Woods wins the job. If you're Aaron Nolan, you look around, you see Duckworth in 27, you see Cutter Woods right now. What could you be doing?
Yeah.
Peacing out.
Exactly.
And, Cutter Woods could do the same thing. If Nolan would beat him out, Cutter Woods looks and says, ooh, there's Duckworth. Oh, I lost a gig.
Yeah.
And if I don't get it back by the end of the year, I'll see you.
There is no position in college football where math starts to come into play more than a quarterback. Because, again, only one goes on the field at the time. You can have 3, 4, 5 receivers, but you only got one quarterback. And so, okay, well, if he's not playing this year, and I don't think he's going to play next year, why would he stick around? You know what I mean? Like, this is where things get really interesting as opposed to at Auburn where you have Jackson Arnold. You got the Daniels kid, Ashton Daniels from Stanford who's a senior. And then you got Deuce Knight, who's going in as a true freshman.
Right.
So it's like, okay, would you rather have 1 year separation competing with one guy or come in here and potentially compete with two guys to try and, again, it's so hard to figure out.
So let's say, here's the thing too, right? The quarterback not balling out and staying kind of puts you're happy because you get your veteran back, but it kind of like screws up the timeline on everybody else. Remember, Spencer Rattler was supposed to play here 1 year.
Yes.
Played 2.
Ideally.
And so let's say that Jackson Arnold doesn't go one and done at Oklahoma. Everybody thinks he just needed to change the scenery because he's got so much talent.
He and Sellers are in the same class, coming in 23.
So let's say Jackson Arnold doesn't go insane at Auburn and put up a lot of crazy numbers, and then he maybe goes into the NFL draft for some reason, whatever. Now I'm just making stuff up. If he doesn't, now you got Deuce Knight, who now is because when you are a high-level quarterback recruit, you're cool with sitting a year.
Sure.
You're not cool with sitting two. I mean, Arch Manning's done it, and that's different.
Yeah.
But most of these guys don't want to sit after 1 year.
Unless, and I, again, these numbers aren't public, I imagine Texas made it worth Arch Manning's
$3.1
while
million worth,
to sit behind Ewers. And again, there were points last year we thought he might have been able to take over the job, and Ewers did enough to hold him off. But Texas knew what they had, said, hey, it looks like he's only going to get 1 year. We have to make sure he does not go anywhere with Ewers coming back for another year. They didn't. Not every school can do that. I don't know if Auburn can do that. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But that's a lot to ask your, again, fan base essentially to pay for a quarterback that's not going to play for a year.
Unofficially, and this is unofficial, Arch Manning last year was making $3.1 million.
Yes.
Quinn Ewers making $2.3.
Yes.
That's unofficial.
Yes.
Run that in your skull for a minute that the backup quarterback was making more than the starting quarterback.
Right. And again, Arch had his opportunities to take the job, but didn't seize the reins enough to warrant, you were sitting out the rest of the year.
I'm telling you and I have talked about this about 100 times. Arch Manning leads Texas down the field for a touchdown against Georgia. He's probably the starting quarterback the rest of the
He's
year.
never leaving the field.
No, he's not.
Because, again, Ewers was getting his butt kicked.
Yep.
And it's like, okay. And look, Ewers was Sark's guy. And I know Sark obviously believes in Arch Manning, but he was not going to pull away from Ewers unless he absolutely had to. But like you said, if Arch Manning comes in and sparks anything with Texas' offense in that game, Ewers is done.
Yep. If Arch Manning can get Texas back in that game, win or lose.
Yeah, just be competitive.
And if he plays well and they put some points on the board, Arch Manning's starting quarterback the rest of the year. And I'll be honest with you, watching Ewers and watching Arch Manning and what we got to see him, and I know Arch, when he started, he wasn't playing against any juggernaut defenses. Arch looked like the better quarterback with the better skill set. But I think what you said, Sark was so loyal to Quinn Ewers, because remember, Ewers came back.
Sure.
From Ohio State. It's like this. In the old days, when there were high-level heavyweight champions in boxing, there was always this saying, you need to take the title. It can't be like a close decision. Close decision goes to the champion. You got to beat the champion. Like everybody knows you beat the champion. And I don't think Arch Manning played well enough to beat the champion. Does that make sense?
You have to overwhelmingly make it obvious you're the better answer. Because, and again, Sark gave him a chance. Said, all right, go out there and prove it.
And he
and
looked as bad as yours.
Yeah. So again, it's like, okay, well, if you're going to be the same, then I'm just going to keep rolling with what we got.
I'm going with my guy because I'm loyal to my guy because I want my upperclassmen to know that all being equal, I'll be loyal to you.
Yes.
That's another way you keep guys.
Exactly. Exactly.
So circling back to this, let's go back to the Auburn situation. If Jackson Arnold plays well enough that he wants to go test the NFL waters, no matter what round he just wants to go, okay, fine. Now you got Deuce Knight, who has been groomed for a year to step in, and then Landon Duckworth comes in to, if Knight has that great year, and then all of a sudden this guy's going to be a 3-year and out guy, then Duckworth should be ready to go. Or maybe Duckworth looks at the situation at Auburn and says, well, they already got Deuce Knight, and there's no guarantee Arnold's going to leave after 1 year. There's more of a guarantee LaNorris Sellers will bolt after 1 year, and I feel like I can beat out Aaron Nolan and Cutter Woods before it's over with than I can maybe what's going on at Auburn. Just saying.
And that's the element of this, too, especially when you're a higher-end quarterback in a recruiting class. There's also the belief that, hey, I can go just come in and take the job. Like, yeah, I might go compete with Deuce Knight, but I feel like I'm a better quarterback than he is, and I'm going to put him on the bench, and I'm going to be the starter. So that factors in this as well.
Yeah, you gotta know the lay of the land, and that's another big thing when you're doing this dance as a quarterback. Because let's go back to Malachi Nelson at Southern Cal, 5-star kid, went to Southern Cal. Lincoln Riley obviously saw enough of Malachi Nelson to say he's not the future.
Yep.
So Malachi Nelson left to go to Boise State and got beat out by a guy he had no business being beat out by.
Yes.
And then Malachi Nelson left. He's now at UTEP. So, it seems like Lincoln Riley was right. Once he got this dude on campus, there's something with Malachi Nelson that doesn't connect and doesn't compute, and there's a reason why he's on his third team in 3 years. But these guys will stay 1 year. They'll sit 1 year. They got no problem sitting.
Sure.
But that's going to be it. If you're a high-level quarterback recruit, you're not going to sit 2 years unless, like you said, they're piling stacks of cash in front of you to stay, like Arch Manning at Texas.
Because that's the thing, and Arch Manning is a very rare breed of quarterback, and the name certainly goes a long way. But go back to earning potential here. You realize the longer you sit, the less you have the ability to earn going to. And again, if you were a 4 and 5 star kid, even if you haven't played, there are plenty of power schools that are going to be willing to offer you something to come play for them. So yeah, I can sit here and be the backup at South Carolina and I don't know, maybe make $500,000, or hey, Wake Forest wants me to play for them for 1.2. I'll go do that. You know what I mean? Those are just numbers I'm coming up with the top of my head. That's how those kind of things happen. And that's why we see perhaps more than any other position, it seems like quarterbacks just going anywhere and everywhere every single year.
All right, so that's the latest on Landon Duckworth. It seems like right now it's Auburn and South Carolina. South Carolina ahead by a nose as we turn the sucker into the home stretch. We'll see where it goes. Again, Landon Duckworth saying he possibly could get his decision out in July. All right, talking lots of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Guess who was talking on Chicago Sports Radio here in the last couple of days?
Who's that?
Our favorite Big Ten head coach.
Oh, boy.
Brett Bielema. Bielema did admit that remember Shane had said that he had talked to Bielema in the offseason. They had a phone conversation, very cordial. They just agreed on some things to disagree, and they moved forward. Well, Bielema confirmed the conversation, said it was, it was all good. We were nice to each other, cordial, and we handled this business and we moved forward. Bielema, so he backed up Shane.
Then you hang up the phone and you're like, I hate that guy.
I can't
stand him.
And Bielema,
can you believe him? Hello. Saying hello to me. Who does he think he is?
Take my name out of your mouth. Bielema also said that with like Illinois fans and folks, around Champaign, he's getting the T-bar. They walk around, they see him in an establishment, they give him the T-bar. And he said, he goes, it wasn't premeditated. I was heat of the moment for me.
Sure.
Just like Shane, heat of the moment. We were just heat of the moment.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything that I had in my head that I was going to do. It just happened.
Dave, I should have had you key up Heat of the Moment by Asia. That would have been perfect.
I like that song.
Yeah.
Asia's good.
Asia's great. I love that
I like
song.
me some Asia. It was good. So Brett Bielema talking on Chicago Sports Radio. And by the way, I saw the Big Ten. We're going to get these Big Ten projections possibly in this hour. If not, we'll get to it like tomorrow. Big Ten projections have Illinois at best a 7-5, 6-6 type team this year.
It's one of those, they got to prove they can sustain it. Because, again, they haven't been a program that's really been consistent in a while, going back to the mid-2000s. And Bielema, like Coach Beamer here at South Carolina, has got them on a good pace. Now go out there and back it up.
Now, that's the projections through computers and things like that. The human beings have put Illinois in the top 20 preseason because they have Luke Altmaier, the quarterback, coming back. They have some other pieces. And take Brett Bielema away from Arkansas, and he's got a pretty good record as a head coach. So the computers aren't very down with Illinois, but the human beings are. All right, we talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game with Terry Ford and David Ayer and Tyler Head. Coming back, speaking of the college football playoff and computers, what structure should we get? Could we get? Will we get? That's next here on the Halftime Show on the game. Oh, halftime show. Lots of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. So, there's another meeting in Asheville.
What number
this
are we
week,
on now?
Number 57.
At least they got nice scenery. They're up in the mountains.
Asheville's nice, man.
I'm sure there's a nice coffee shop up there.
It's a little craft beer action.
Yeah.
They could get the craft beer schedule from Jay.
I'm sure there's you can get a craft place and make some baskets or something. It'd be great.
Green Man is great up there.
And what's that?
Dave should be their tour guide.
Dave knows Asheville. Dave, well, that's where Larkin Poe.
Yeah. And Dave was featured in one of their videos, right?
Dave is a
Their
star.
official video. There I am.
Dave is officially in a Larkin Poe video.
We were kidding with Dave. He's going to have to have a SAG card. He's going to be an IMDb database.
Well, he's already too famous for us anyway.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. Larkin Poe probably sees us. We thought we had a restraining order against that guy. How'd he get in? How'd this guy get in?
Also,
that guy.
That film of me in 1975 or 6 at USC shaking Gerald Ford's hand.
When you said that film view, I thought you were going to go in a much different direction,
So did
Dave.
I. That film of me in USC
hold
in
on.
1975. I'm like,
This is a family show, Dave.
That 9mm filmed.
I'm like, what's going on here?
It's a family show. There's kids in the car. It's summer break.
I was really poor and I needed the money.
Well, I did ask him for $5.
Anyway.
President Ford, got $5 on you, man.
Hey, dude.
Could use it.
So right now in Asheville, they're meeting the College Football Playoff Committee folks, and they're trying to figure out a lot of things. One is there is a lot of talk about the selection process in itself.
Yes.
And the SEC is pushing this because they're not happy.
No.
Greg Sankey not in a good mood in how this whole thing was handled last year, thinking that the SEC got hosed. And look, the one thing I agree with out of all this is strength of schedule's got to matter.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Your one-loss record, fine. I'm not saying nobody looks at, but that's the problem is everybody looks at your one-loss record first, and nobody looks at who you beat. And I'm sorry, but if you're 9-3 and your strength of schedule is really difficult, and there's a team in front of you, even at 11-1, who played no one, I think there's got to be a conversation.
Sure.
And I think strength of schedule needs to matter. And it didn't last year. Well, it did, then it didn't, then it didn't, then it did.
And that's the bigger problem here is the criteria is so murky. I really feel like, and the committee changes a lot. You have different members, different chairperson every single year. It seems like I wish at the beginning of the season they outline, hey, this is the most important criteria. If you want to put percentages on it, saying we value strength of schedule as 40% of our decision. Strength of record is 20%. Just give us an idea because I feel like watching every single week, and, we get in here and laugh about it every single Wednesday during the season. Whoever comes on TV, the Ward Manuel last year, Boo Corrigan the year before that just waffles a bunch of nonsense that often contradicts whatever they told us the week before. It's like, wait a minute. I thought you guys valued this over this. Now, why are you changing your mind about it? I just want a clear, detailed point about what you value over other things. So when I'm looking at these teams' resume, we should be able to figure this out, right? We should say, based on what we understand the criteria to be, these are the teams that should be in. Instead of saying, 1 through 8 is pretty easy to figure out, but after that, who knows?
Well, see, here's your problem. Once again, you're bringing logic into the conversation.
I know, and that's dumb of me, I guess.
You would get so fired if you worked for the NCAA or the College Football Playoff Committee.
Wait a minute. Get that nonsense out of here.
Yeah, you with the logic.
We're
Beat
here
it.
to make it more complicated.
Right, because that's a problem. The more murky it is, the more we talk about it as media.
Yeah.
If you make it less murky and make it logical and clear, I've been screaming about this for a couple years now. If you made it like the NFL tiebreaker criteria, where I can go to a page and see your process from 1 to 10, then guess what? I can't argue with you because you have a process.
Yeah.
College athletics, especially football and basketball, have been built on arguments. That's what we do. We want to argue about who's better, who's worse, whose resume, who's this, who's that.
And literally in the contract that ESPN has with the College Football Playoff Committee, they have to have a TV show on Tuesday nights and a selection show on Sunday. It is literally a made-for-TV product to create debate.
So guess what? Your logic, friend,
Yeah, I know. It's out the window.
screws up the TV show. And so going back to this college football playoff situation, there's talk, okay, do you go back and look at the computers? Because now are we smarter X amount of years down the road? Are our analytics better? Our processes better? Just the people that put together, like the Billy Connellys of the world for ESPN Plus, are they smarter in how they put together their formulas to where should you have a computer do it? Even Billy Connelly said, though, because they quote Connelly in this post, Connelly's like, no, don't just use my stuff. Use multiple formulas, and by the way, maybe even sprinkle in the human being because you want everything covered.
Sure. I don't know. We use AI for everything else. Why not?
Why not? I mean, so the perfect formula to some of these formula guys who build these analytic platforms, they say, look, don't just use us. Keep the human beings involved too, but also use computer, use some computer criteria, basically balance it. And it is interesting that they put the BCS. This is what the BCS would have spit out on December 8th if the BCS was doing another college football playoff committee.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the computers would have said. Oregon number 1, Georgia 2, Notre Dame 3, Texas 4, Ohio State 5, Penn State 6, Tennessee 7, Indiana 8, Boise State 9, Arizona State 10, Bama 11, SMU 12, Clemson 13, South Carolina 14.
Yep.
So if you look at that, Oregon was also number 1.
Yep. Georgia was number 2.
And Georgia was number 2. And so nothing here is wildly out of line compared to what the human beings did, to be honest.
The only difference, and again, the order is different.
Right.
But Alabama is in over Clemson.
Right. That's it.
The only
That's
change.
It. And, of course, that has to get thrown out the window when Clemson wins the SEC championship.
Based on
the ACC championship.
And the AQ, yes.
Right. So that's the one here. Bama would get knocked out. Clemson would jump in, but SMU would be the 12th. And then Bama would be sitting with South Carolina as one of the last 2 out, if you go by this. Because if you flip back and look at like your strength of schedule, SMU is nowhere near carrying the strength of schedule that Alabama, South Carolina, or Ole Miss has.
No.
So, if the strength of schedule component matters more, then you would have had even bigger conversations about those teams.
Which I go back to what now seems to be the dead model with the 4-4-2-1-8-7-9-24 model, or whatever it was, where I said, as convoluted as it sounds, you're at least taking most of the decision-making out of the committee's hands. Mm-hmm. To where instead of saying, well, here's how we value this team, it's no, did you finish above a certain point in your conference? That's how you get in, or an opportunity to play your way in. It seems, though, the 5-11 model is what we're kind of trending towards now, that the SEC is more on board with that because it gives them the opportunity to get more teams in. That puts all that power, once again, back in the hands of the committee to make a decision. And again, as we expand this more, as we get to 16 teams, now you're introducing more flaws on resumes. Where, again, when we're deciding the 4-team college football playoff, the difference between 4, 5, and 6, like, all right, well, 5 has a loss, pretty open and shut with. 6 has a loss to an unranked team. You know what I mean? Like, pretty easy arguments to make because there were so few flaws on the resume. Now we're talking about 3, maybe 4 lost teams being on this bubble going forward. And, like, how do you decide? Again, when you're coming from different conferences, different strength of schedules, it's just a mess.
But that's the way college athletics likes it, because we'll talk about it all week.
We watch it on Tuesday, and we get angry about it on Wednesday.
Yes.
It's the circle of life.
The circle of anger. We have a circle of anger. All right, you can watch the Game TV/radio, powered by Integrated Media, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. Just download 1075thegame.com for the 1075 The Game app as well from iTunes or Google Play, and you can listen anywhere. So you can watch us on YouTube, you can listen to us on your phone or your device. 1075 The Game. Cooper Kupp does not play for Sean McVay anymore.
No, it is not.
But Cooper Kupp has a man crush on Sean McVay. We'll explain why coming back. It is a halftime show. David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Ford, going till 3 on The Game. All right, LSU has moved on 9-5 over UCLA in the winners bracket, along with Coastal Carolina. They are on the other side of the bracket. They could possibly meet for the whole thing.
That's
before
true.
it's all said and
Yep.
done. So right now, LSU will wait for the winner of Arkansas and UCLA, and then LSU will get the winner of that game, while Coastal gets the winner of Oregon State and Louisville.
Correct.
Correct? All right.
That game coming up in like 30 minutes, I think.
Because UCLA has to play again tonight.
Yes. Which, good luck.
Go get them. All right, we talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Cooper Kupp is now a member of the Seattle Seahawks. But Cooper Kupp obviously made his bones and cut his teeth playing for Sean McVay with the Rams. Kupp put up some historic type numbers in a very short period of time, and then Kupp started getting hurt. But Cooper Kupp was one of the best receivers in the NFL a few years ago. Kupp was talking to the folks in Seattle, the Seattle media, and basically broke down why Sean McVay and his offense was so ahead of the game for a couple of years, and how defenses have caught up or trying to catch up. This is pretty interesting football hand stuff from Cooper Kupp. Let's get cut 6, Dave. Cooper Kupp.
Harder to face defenses now compared to a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, it is from my perspective. It's just from my perspective. So don't get, no one won't even get offended. But here we go. So in 2017, 2018, Sean McVay's offense is ahead of the game. There were times we were in place and like they have no idea what is going on, and we were just manipulating them, moving them to where we wanted to go. It was stupid. 2019, defenses start catching on. There's a little bit of this Vic Fangio thing that comes on. It's like, okay, late in 2018, there was some stuff that's like showed that they could kind of stop this offense a little bit. But 2019, you start seeing some more of this cover 4, some of the 6-1 stuff. You see safeties now playing things, from depth and being able to cancel things across. 2020 comes. Brandon Staley gets hired to LA. Brandon Staley was with Fangio in Chicago. Staley in 1 year puts together the #1 defense in the league. Now Staley's thing is all about concept recognition, concept match, being able to be like cancel routes, move on to new things. So now you've got a defense that's not just dropping to spots, but now they're playing the offense. Right. And now more and more of this is shifted and molded into this defenses now that are holding these shells and being able to say, hey, you're not going to see what we're doing pre-snap. We're going to show you late. We're going to bring pressures from all different directions. We're not just going to be dropping into spots. We're going to be matching. We're going to be playing zone stuff underneath. The complexity of the defenses has gotten so much more because the offenses have also started doing so much more that you have to be able to have answers for it defensively. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and it is fun though.
You got all that?
Yeah.
You good? You good?
I'm going cross-eyed here.
Well, one thing that he did say is Vic Fangio, a longtime defensive coordinator, who was with Philadelphia last year. And what did they do? Won Super Bowl.
Yep.
Teams have started to counteract with cover 4 is basically 4 DBs, the 2 safeties and the 2 corners are playing quarters of the field, basically. And now you see defenses starting to disguise more coverages and using more intricate things to fool the offense. Now, make the offense come to the line of scrimmage. You get one look, but then once you snap the ball, you get a pre-snap look.
Yes.
And then once you snap the ball, they're giving you a totally different look. And now you have got to react in a split second-ish to what you thought you were seeing, but now what you are seeing.
Yeah.
It just makes everything a lot more difficult for the offense to do the things that they want to do because, again, quarterback comes up pre-snap. You do certain things like, again, if you're a football dork, you know this. Motion is done for a lot of reasons. One is what defense are you in?
Check and man or zone.
Yeah, if you put a guy in motion and the defender follows that guy across the field, it's man.
Yes.
If he doesn't, it's zone. So there's a lot of things you do pre-snap to try to get a clue what the defense is doing. Certain players in certain positions will tell a quarterback as he goes through the pre-snap process what they're doing defensively, what kind of defense they're in, maybe are they blitzing, where are they bringing heat, all these things you can see in a pre-snap. Now, if you're disguising everything, then when you snap the ball, it's nothing you thought it was going to be.
Yes.
Advantage defense.
And that's the chess match of football. And again, when you talk about the league of the NFL, and again, using the example here of Sean McVay, who, yes, a couple years ago was the greatest offensive mind football I'd ever seen, doing things that Cooper Kupp said the defense had no clue what they were doing. Everybody eventually catches up.
Oh,
because
sure.
once one person figures it out or starts to figure it out, then guess what? An assistant on that staff gets hired somewhere else and just starts spreading around the league. He talked about Brandon Staley coming off the Vic Fangio tree and going from there to where then a couple years later, like, yeah, McVay's still a good play caller, but he's not thought of as the best in the league right now because everybody caught up to what they were doing.
Right. And so now Sean McVay's got to adjust. Now, what does Sean McVay do now that he sees what defenses are doing to his offense? Okay, what do I do now to counteract this thing?
This is why these guys live in their offices, by the way.
Yes, they sleep on couches.
They don't have time for their families.
And it's like, for example, we talk about this, with certain coaches. Some guys don't have a plan B.
Yeah.
Like Chip Kelly didn't have a plan B.
One trick pony.
Yeah, he was like, we're going to play really fast. We're doing all these things off the idea we're playing fast. And once college football put rules in place to stop that, Chip Kelly's become just another offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and then he tried doing that in the NFL, and you had a bunch of grown men making millions and millions of dollars saying, I'm not doing that. I'm not running up and down this field to snap the ball every 10 seconds.
And then the league went, oh, no, we're not playing that stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna slow you down.
Yeah, so once all that got slow, Chip Kelly's thing got slowed down. Chip Kelly's not a genius. Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze was doing a lot of things at Ole Miss that people weren't doing in the SEC. And then once other offenses and offensive coordinators said, you know what? That stuff works pretty good. Okay, Hugh, what's your plan B now?
Yeah. Well, and Hugh Freeze was able to, because, again, he kind of got ousted at Ole Miss while they were still doing well for the most part. And then he goes to the group of five, still able to be successful. But coming back to the SEC, he's been there for 2 years, not wowing anyone anymore because the game has caught up to him and really surpassed him for what he's doing offensively.
Oh, and more important, now everybody's paying players.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that also helps too. And you don't have to use burner phones to do it anymore. But yeah, that's the intricacy of football. I think that we can all appreciate and love is like it is brilliant minds going to war with each other on a chessboard that's football field.
And it's so interesting. Now, again, in college, the good news is if your players are better,
that helps.
A lot of this doesn't matter.
Sure.
But in the NFL, it's so close. The margin between the best teams and the worst teams is so close.
Yes, it is.
And all these little things do matter in the winning and losing of football games. There are some great college football coaches, head coaches, who aren't X's and O's guys. They just hire X's and O's guys, but they just out-recruit you, and their Jimmies and Joes are better than your Jimmies and Joes.
And that's why we talk about so much those windows, right? We talked about this yesterday. The Rams had a window where their offense was this dazzling, spectacular thing that the rest of the league couldn't keep up with. They capitalized and won a Super Bowl. Again, they're a good team now, but they're not great or elite like they were a couple years ago. Their window closed, but they capitalized and won a Super Bowl while that was still happening before everybody caught up to what they were doing.
And now, because McVay is a really good head coach, they're still a playoff-type team.
Yes.
They're just not the Super Bowl contender that they were when defenses couldn't figure out what McVay was doing on offense.
Yes. But
that's the thing where the calculations and the chess match and the adjustments. And we'll see what McVay does moving forward to adjust to the things that are being done to his offense. And the guys in the NFL, because the margin of error is so tight and so close, these things matter a ton.
Yeah. Well, so the difference between the best talent in the NFL and the worst talent is about that much.
Not much, man.
In college football, the best and the worst is about this big.
It's gigantic.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's huge. And that's why, like you said, when Ohio State plays Youngstown State may have a great game plan, but they don't have the athletes.
Yeah, Youngstown State might be able to out-scheme Ohio State.
Sure.
But guess what they can't do?
Yeah, out-athlete them.
No, they can't out-football player and athlete them. It just doesn't work. Now, in the NFL, it's all so close. Coaching does matter a ton more, the X's and O's and the adjustments, whether it's in-game, halftime, whatever it is. All this stuff matters so much in the winning and losing of a game because of just the margin of error is tiny, tiny. It was kind of cool listening to Cooper Kupp dork out.
Yeah, and again, I'm just envisioning him writing this on a whiteboard and all of us being like,
And by the way, he threw that out in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, and he's not even looking at anything.
No,
he's sitting at
talking.
A couple people at a radio remote, and it's just off the top of his head.
Well, that also shows it because look, Cooper Kupp, isn't a slow dude. Cooper Kupp has got athleticism, but he is not Randy Moss by any stretch.
There's a reason he was at Eastern Washington.
Right, there's a reason that Cooper Kupp came from Eastern Washington. One of the things Cooper Kupp, and you heard it right there, a lot of times getting open is done from the neck up with your brain.
Yes, it's not being faster than the corner. It's out-maneuvering them.
Out-maneuvering, running precise routes, understanding how to adjust your route and adjust what you're doing compared with the defense is doing to you. You heard a lot of why Cooper Kupp has been so good right there.
Cooper Kupp's not the guy that's going to go get you a deep ball, on a vertical
running
40 yards
4-2.
down the field. No, he's going to run a precise route and get open.
And then you know what he does when you throw it to him?
He catches it.
Crazy. All right, Firehouse Up text the hour next, 803-404-6100 here on the halftime show as we yap a ton of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. All right, time for our Firehouse Sub text of the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you got there, Tyler Head?
In reference to our conversation about Duckworth and looking at the quarterback room, going forward, AJ says you just sign as many quarterback prospects as possible and assume they'll all eventually transfer if they aren't the starter after 2 years or so. I mean, yeah, really.
Not wrong, man.
That's kind of how you do it. And it's like, all right, you hope for the best.
That's all you can do. I mean, I think the texter hits it. You just keep signing enough of them, and you hope one works out. And you just want to make sure when that one works out, you have another one ready to rock and roll.
Well, think about, spring practice this year where, and the spring game specifically, where, we kind of did the math well before Dante Reno entered the transfer portal. Like, yeah, he's probably not sticking around because, one, he's very clearly the fourth quarterback here. Two, he didn't really play in the spring game. It's like, yeah, he's definitely going to transfer, which he did.
No, we've seen it the last couple of years where it's Colton Gauthier or whoever. You see these players who – you see the numbers just don't work in their favor. They're not getting playing time in the spring game, or they're not getting run, in practice. I mean, it's on the wall, right?
Yeah, and you know what? There may be some guys that just love South Carolina and don't want to go anywhere.
No, Luke Doty.
Luke Doty, sure. Now, Luke Doty's gotten to play, a good bit, even when he's not been the starting quarterback, so that's a little bit different. But, guys that, especially at quarterback, like, hey, I don't want to just sit here and be a bench rider for the next 3 years.
I mean, you look at Joyner, Carry-on Joyner. After that Mayo Bowl, could he have gone and given himself a shot playing quarterback somewhere?
Maybe.
But he decided to stay at South Carolina. But those people are rare now.
They are.
Quarterbacks like that are very rare. The wait your turn guy is not waiting his turn anymore. It's like, why should I wait my turn here? I can get my turn over at the other school.
And again, if the transfer, because I love the argument that people like to make, well, back in 83, these guys were loyal. Like, no, they just didn't have the option.
No, they couldn't leave like this.
Because if you left, you had to sit a year if you weren't a graduate.
Right.
So if the transfer portal had been open like it is now, I guarantee you a lot of those guys would have left and gone other places.
It reminds me of my dad, God love him, Dean Ford, would go crazy on these steroid guys in baseball.
Yeah.
Hey, my dad would go, yeah, Brooks Robinson didn't take no steroids. Frank Robinson didn't take no steroids. Willie Mays didn't take no steroids. He go, you know why, Dad? Why? They didn't have steroids.
Yeah, exactly. If they did, guarantee you some of them would have
Guys would have been taking steroids, Dad. And then he's like, well, you're out of the will now.
In fact, the league probably would have encouraged it back then.
Well, there were guys in the 60s, like late 60s, popping speed.
Sure.
Because the season's such a grind. I remember Jim Bouton in the book Ball 4 was saying they had two containers. One was called the good stuff or whatever, and everybody knew what the good stuff meant.
Yeah, helped you focus.
So you pop some speed, some uppers to get you geeked and juiced for the game. They talk about this. I don't know if there's a performance enhancer. Doc Ellis threw a no-hitter on LSD. I don't think hallucinating is a performance enhancer, but
I don't know how well you're seeing the strike zone with that.
Maybe you saw a lot of strikes.
Why is the strike zone a birthday cake?
And why is there an elephant with a bat? I don't understand. And why is the umpire's head melting?
Actually, that might be the most impressive no-hitter ever then.
If he really did. Dude on LSD. That beats the heck out of all of Nolan Ryan's no-hitters.
Why'd you go running off the mound before the game was over? My glove started talking to me.
You see, like, you look down, your glove has a mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Start freaking out.
Doc, what's up? All right, we appreciate the text. Thank you very much, 803-404-6100 on the Firehouse Subtext line. What's trending at 2, we will take a look. I mean, the MLB Baseball Combine is coming. Two Gamecocks are there. We'll get into that next. Not a surprise, either one, by the way. We'll talk about that in What's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. That's on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare. One more hour on the game. let Tyler get out of here because he popped in for Jen early this morning. So let Tyler go home. He's suffered enough. So Terry Ford, David Ayer, we go till 3 here on the game. What's trending at 2 we'll start with is Gamecock baseball. The MLB draft combine is happening. Nathan Hall, Ethan Petrie will be there at the combine. Petrie, you look at all these different projections for Ethan Petrie. I've seen him at number 33 overall, number 52 overall. Petrie will probably go somewhere in the second round if you just look at projections. But here's the thing with baseball, and if you follow the game, you know what I'm going to talk about. It's not that simple because teams have X amount of money, slot money, and you manipulate your slot money. Like you might draft a guy in the first round that could be a second rounder, but you're paying him less than slot is what it's called. And if you drop less than slot, then you can spend more money on another guy in the draft. That let's say there's a player who has college eligibility left, and he has let it be known, or his agent, his people have let it be known that he's going to go back to college if he doesn't get X amount of money. So it makes him less draftable. Teams will pass on him because they don't want him going back to college, and they, basically lose a draft pick till the next year, where they'll get a comp pick. So let's say he doesn't get drafted and he slides down the board to the second, third round, but you have enough slot money, you can offer what you can offer this guy. He's going to accept it. He's going to sign with you, and you've got him in your organization. And basically you get a first-round talent, and let's just make up something, let's say early third round, whatever. So that's kind of the way this thing plays itself out. And so just because Ethan Petrie is rated at 33 or 52, and you feel like, okay, he's going to be a second-round pick, he might go even higher if somebody loves him and they want to spend less slot dollars, and Petrie will accept it because he'll still get paid more. Or he could go a little bit lower if some of this manipulation could knock him down the board. But bottom line is Petrie's going to go, I think, in the first 2 rounds, no later than third. I feel like second is a landing spot, sweet spot for Ethan Petrie. Nathan Hall, a little different. Hall, if you look at Baseball America's top 500 players in the draft, Ethan Hall comes in at 279. And there are no scouting grades on Nathan Hall. But here's what they say about Hall. Then we'll get back to Petrie's scouting grades. Quote from Baseball America about Nathan Hall. Hall can be an aggressive hitter who expands the zone a bit too much, but he's selective enough to take a walk at times and has done a nice job against 92-plus mile-an-hour velocity. He's super lean at 6'3", 200 pounds, solid raw power. Through most of the hardest hit balls have come on the ground at this point in his career. He turns in plus run times out of the box and a chance to stick in center field with a solid arm. So I guess the thought is he's got some solid raw power. He weighs 200 pounds. You can slap some weight on him, some muscle. Maybe he becomes, even more of a bit of a power hitter. Probably never looked at as a wow power hitter, but he could hit more home runs if you put some maybe 10 pounds of muscle on him. Right now, the balls he hits hardest are on the ground, so maybe there could be a possible, tinkering with his swing to get more lift, so he's not hitting so many ground balls. So if Hall's a guy, you could see him go 7th, 8th, 9th round, somewhere like that. And you go back to Petrie, if you look at scouting grades, it's on a scale of 80. His hit grade's 40, power grade 65, run grade 40, field grade 45, arm grade 55. Basically, the tool that's going to play right now and puts him in such a position to get drafted is his power. A 65 power grade out of 80. So that's where Ethan Petrie's calling card will be that he can hit the ball a long way. So that's kind of what's looked at. In the draft combine, both of these guys will be at the draft combine for South Carolina. Other players ranked in the top 500, if you're interested, for South Carolina. Eli Jersenbeck at 419. Henry Kazmar, the shortstop who has left South Carolina to go back to Ohio State. Kazmar's at 449. And obviously it would depend on where these guys get drafted. And both Jersenbeck and Kazmar went into the portal, by the way. But it depends on where these guys get drafted to see what they're going to do. I mean, Kazmar is going back to Ohio State, but if Kazmar goes higher than he thinks he's going to go, if he decides to, really want to see what's up with the MLB draft, I mean, if he gets drafted in a spot where, maybe higher than he thought, maybe the money's something he's interested in, he could roll off. Jersenbeck, to me, he just got to get healthy, right? That's been an issue. And what's he going to be like now after the injury issues that he's had? That's some of the stuff with Eli Jersenbeck. So we shall see. Anyway, that's the latest with the top 500 guys for South Carolina. Of course, the MLB Combine coming up. And I think Petrie and Hall, my guess is both stay in the draft. Again, that is my guess. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, get on out of here. David Ayers still hanging with us as we roll up until 3 o'clock. And then the post-game show with Jay and Elijah. Like we said earlier, LSU has won. They beat UCLA today. LSU moves on in the winner's bracket with East Carolina. LSU will await the winner of UCLA and Arkansas later tonight. Yep, UCLA is playing 2 games. And no matter what, obviously, LSU is going to get a very familiar opponent because they took out Arkansas in the first game, at Omaha. So East Carolina will await the winner of Louisville and Oregon State. And I believe Coastal has not played Louisville off the top of my head. This whole thing scrambled to me. But it feels like Oregon State has better pitching than Louisville. So Oregon State might have a better chance if they go up against Coastal. Louisville is a good offensive team. On the other side, Arkansas is Arkansas. You feel like you're going to see a rematch of Arkansas and LSU. You feel like, could UCLA beat Arkansas? Sure, it's one game. Anything can happen. But it wouldn't surprise you if you get LSU and Arkansas. Just say. So that's what's going on with the College World Series in Omaha at this point. Also, what's trending at 2, NBA Finals. We've got Oklahoma City now up 3 games to 2. Jalen Williams went crazy, scored 40. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, let me say it slower, scored 31. Oklahoma City got a big lead. Indiana cut it to 2 in the fourth quarter. Williams hit a ginormous 3 to put the lead back to 5. Oklahoma City turned up the defense. Indiana had like 23 turnovers in this game. That's what killed the Pacers. That and Tyrese Halliburton was 0 for 6 from the floor. Only scored 4 points. Hurt his calf early in the game. He just wasn't right. So now you get Game 6 in Indiana. You're hoping Halliburton will be somewhere close to 100%-ish. I feel like this thing goes 7. I took Oklahoma City in 6, but I just feel like Indiana will find a way to win at home, and then Oklahoma City will win this thing on their home court. The Pacers, you just give them a ton of props. They almost put themselves in position to steal Game 6 with Halliburton nowhere near 100%. I just feel like this is a 7-game series. But if you're Indiana, this is something Tyler and I talked about in the first hour of the show, you were a few minutes away from going up 3-1. Now you're down 3-2, and you're a loss away from going home. That's how quick this thing has turned, and it feels like Indiana had their shot in Game 4. Get up 3-1, now you are totally in control, right? But instead, you lost that game to go 2-2. Now you're down 3-2, and now you're trying to stave off elimination on your home court. So we'll see if Oklahoma City can finish it up in Game 6, or will there be a Game 7 in Oklahoma City? And as we talked about earlier, ratings have been down for this finals just because you don't have big market teams, you don't have recognizable superstars. But I think it's been good ball. We had the one blowout by OKC in Game 2, but we've had a lot of good games in this series. Now, the Stanley Cup Finals have been better because you've had, 3 overtime games? But the NBA Finals have been good this year. Absolutely. So we'll see what happens in Game 6 in Indiana. Also, what's trending at 2, and this is not a surprise. All right, the PGA, they named a CEO, or the word was there was going to be a CEO. And a guy who has been very instrumental in a lot of the successful things the NFL has done. Brian Rolap, Roger Goodell's right-hand man, and everybody thought one day could be commissioner of the NFL, is leaving the NFL to become the CEO of the PGA Tour. Which tells me Goodell ain't going anywhere for a long time, because if you're Raj, why would you, man? They're giving you like 40, 50 million a year. Why would you leave? They would have to take my commissioner business card out of my cold, dead hands, making that kind of loot. So Roll-Up is going to now be the CEO of the PGA Tour. Now, when that happened, here was the thing. The PGA has this thing called a commissioner, Jay Monahan. Now, Monahan, if you remember when all this live stuff was going down, and Monahan was fighting live, and players were stepping up with Monahan to fight live, and then all of a sudden, the PGA Tour was negotiating with live, which really hung some players out to dry. Monahan, most players were not saying his name without some cuss words. So it felt like Monahan had lost his juice with the players. And as soon as you see Rolap becoming the CEO, my thought was, you're not keeping Monahan around, are you? Because that would make no sense. Because no other league has a commissioner and a CEO. So Jay Monahan will step down at the end of the contract in 2026 and transition to his day-to-day responsibilities of running the circuit to Brian Rolap. Monahan will focus on his role as a member of the PGA Tour and PGA Tour Enterprises, those boards, during the rest of his tenure. So basically, he's done as the leader of the PGA Tour, which does not surprise anyone. After the Rolap came in as a CEO, I'm going to tell you, Rolap did a ton of good things with the NFL. Now, do they have a lot of other smart people in the NFL to step in for Rollup? Yes. But Rollup was very instrumental in a lot of things that the NFL did that helped grow that brand. So that's what's happening with the PGA Tour. And maybe Rollup will help the PGA Tour do what it can in, look, it's a niche sport. It just is. And maybe Rollup can help make this niche sport as powerful as it can be and as popular as it can be in its role as a niche sport in America. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. We'll come back. Murray State is out of the College Baseball World Series, but it's good to hear from those guys one more time because it was a great story. Head coach, the players, a 4 seed getting to the College World Series is very rare. So we want to hear from the Murray State players. That's coming up next here on the Halftime Show. David Ayer, Terry Ford, Tyler Head done for the day. We'll have him back again tomorrow here on the game. What's trending, too, is the College World Series. Murray State is out. Got no hit by Gage Wood yesterday. 19 strikeouts by the Razorback hurler. But Murray State afterwards, the presser, leaving Omaha after 2 games. Heck of a run, heck of a ride. Had to dogpile twice in the Supers just to get to Omaha. Here, first of all, we'll start with Cut 4, Dave. The head coach, Dan Skirka, emotionally reflecting on the Murray State time at the College World Series. Hit it.
You know, one of my wife's favorite movies is A League of Their Own, and say there's no crying in baseball. Well, you can throw that out the window. There's no way I'm making it through this right here. What these guys mean to me and my family, I can't put it into words. You know, after Duke, you know, we gave glory, and we'll give glory in defeat. You know, this journey, God's great. It's unbelievable, the support we've gotten. It's just been unbelievable. After we beat Duke, I got 1,300 text messages, all the social media and other. I mean, it was blown away. Just hearing from people I haven't heard from in forever. Some people I didn't know that tracked down my number. It's just this journey and what these guys have done to inspire people, to inspire kids to play baseball, to inspire families to watch together, to inspire families to come here and visit and be a part of it. That's what's so special about this, and it's amazing. I mean, it truly is amazing. You know, hats off to Arkansas. I think Gage Wood made himself some money today. Holy cow, with our offense and what we've done all year to a lot of really good pitchers. I'll take the blame. I didn't prepare these guys for what we saw today because it was special, and they've been special all year. So, just again, thanks to everybody. This journey. I heard all these guys saying that, you know, don't be sad. It's over. Smile because it happened, and Hoagie might have summed it up, or both, because we're sad, but we're really glad that this thing happened, and so many people were a part of it.
You know, and I guess, I don't know, maybe I've been doing this way too long, probably, but I always love when people appreciate their moment and appreciate, you know, where they're at and how special it is and how much it means. Because sometimes once folks get to a high level, it almost feels like they take it for granted, kind of, sort of, or there's an expectation, and it's just not as special. Sometimes almost a relief you get where you're going because, you know, there was so much pressure on you. You got there, you went, oh, thank God. Whew, we made it. So when you hear the head coach at Murray State, Dan Skirka, talk about just that journey and that moment, how he appreciates it, and how these guys will, I'm telling you, there will be reunions every so many years, and all these dudes will get together and tell the same stories and laugh the same way and cry together, and it's really cool. It's just really this storyline of Murray State has been fantastic. It really has. Now let's get to Cut 5, Dave. We heard from the head coach. Now let's hear some player reaction. The Murray State players after getting beat by Arkansas and being eliminated from the College World Series. Hit it.
I just think my friends, I mean, this experience has been awesome. I mean, all those wins are nice, but I love these guys, man. And the hotel room and all that stuff, that's what I'll remember at least.
Yeah, I mean, the wins are phenomenal. We had a lot of them. You just can't match the culture we have here. I mean, I'm going to miss a coach. I'm going to miss these two. I'm going to miss every one of these guys. Strapping up the cleats every day to go to war with these guys was such a blessing this year, and I will never take this for granted. The whole entire journey, I can't just pick one. It's all special to me.
Yeah, I think they summed it up, but, you know, this was a cool experience. The regional, super regional, and then getting here. I think it's something that every baseball player dreams of. But the best part is being able to do it with these guys. I told somebody the other day I get to wake up every day and go play the game I love with my 40 best friends. So that's what I'll remember most.
Again, it's a fantastic story. Hate to see it end, but it ended because a pitcher went out there and did something historic. A 19 strikeout no-hitter. But the Murray State journey will be something, again, when you see these schools every so often make this type of run. I believe it was it, again, my memory isn't as good as it used to be. Too many keggers back in the day, Dave. I think it was Cal State Fullerton made their historic run to win the College World Series. Well, when Coastal won, it was like, wow, what a cute story. Back in, was it 2016? So it's always fun to see these underdogs, these Cinderellas get this far. And, and Tyler brought this up to me. Kendall Rogers, was it ESPN? But Kendall Rogers was being interviewed, and he talked about this new world of rev share, and maybe a school like Murray State can benefit a ton, like, the Big East in basketball, in men's basketball. Maybe a school like a Murray State in baseball where you go, look, we'll get more eyeballs on us if we get to the College World Series, and we'll do more for our university and athletic programs to be really good at baseball and maybe be a perennial contender to get to, regional, super regional, Omaha, whatever. Maybe we need to put more rev share money into baseball. We don't have a football team. And, we have, obviously, basketball is what we're known for. But if we put more dough into baseball than others can, maybe that'll be an advantage. Like we talk about the Big East in men's basketball, same thing. Place like Xavier, you can throw a lot more rev share dollars at the basketball program than some of these SEC schools can. Now, again, obviously, how the collectives fit into all this, we don't know. Because it's right now there's a clearinghouse. No one thinks it's going to stand up in court. So, but just for the rev share purpose, schools that don't have football can focus on some of these other sports, whether it's men's basketball, women's basketball, baseball, whatever, throw more money toward that than others can, and that can be a competitive advantage to you. So it's very, very interesting stuff Kendall Rogers was talking about regarding baseball in some of these, baseball programs that have either broke through or good that don't have to deal with football programs. Just saying. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. A craft beer card. It's here. Go to Sweet Deals, 1075 The Game. Click on Sweet Deals. A lot of craft beer for not a lot of money. Go check it out again, 1075thegame.com. Just click on Sweet Deals. Greatest day in the history of the world. This was a day in 1994. Dave will have a wonderful compilation that came from 30 for 30 about this day in 1994. It was a day. We'll have that coming up on the halftime show. Terry Ford, David Ayer, we're here till 3 on the game. All right, real quick before we get to the greatest day in the history of the world, I misspoke. I meant to say Murray State had a bad football program. I think I said they don't have one. Well, they really don't. They were 1-11 last year. Of course, Jody Wright, former Gamecock assistant. Jody Wright is going into his second year now. Last year, team was 1-11 in his first year, 0-8 in the conference. So they have a bad football program. That's what I meant to say.
They have a rifle range right at their stadium, football stadium.
That's not a good combination, Dave.
Well, you get.
It's not a good. To have a rifle range near the football stadium is not really a good combination.
You got the track around the field.
You and I were laughing. Whenever you have the track around the football field. Yeah. Anyway. All right, greatest day in the history of the world. Get ready, Dave, for number 7 here in a second. There's a great 30 for 30 compilation about June 17th, 1994. We'll get to it in a minute. A little old school. Rocky Marciano scores a 15-round unanimous decision over Ezzard Charles to retain the world heavyweight title. Of course, Rocky Marciano retired as an undefeated heavyweight champion. 1960, Ted Williams hits his 500th home run. Ted Williams' numbers are insane. Ted Williams went into the military 2 different times in his life and missed chunks of seasons. And Ted Williams still, I believe, 512 career home runs, I believe. I think. 521. I got the 2 and the 1 mixed up. 521 career home runs. And he was a guy, again, missed chunks of seasons. If you look through it, Williams was in the military. He only played 6 games in 1952. Also missed the 43, 44, and 45 seasons because of military duty as well. You take his average numbers and you put it into what, roughly 4 lost seasons? Really 5. He only played 37 games. Well, part of this was military. He missed, I believe, 4 seasons because of military service. But put his regular yearly averages in, and he's a guy that was, hitting over 6. He would have over 600 career home runs. So Ted Williams hit home run number 500 this day in 1960. Also old school, as we talk about U.S. Open, Jack Nicklaus beat Arnold Palmer by 3 strokes in a playoff to win the U.S. Open this day in 62. We were talking about this with Jay a couple days ago because Oakmont was holding the U.S. Open. Oakmont, 1973, Johnny Miller shoots a 63 in the final round to win the U.S. Open by a stroke. Miller, his 8 under 63 was the first ever carded in a major championship in what is the most difficult golf course in major golf history if you look at shots per round. And Miller, I believe, was 6 shots back going into that final round. This day, 1976, the 18-team NBA absorbs 4 of the 6 remaining ABA teams: New York Nets, Indiana Pacers, San Antonio Spurs, Denver Nuggets. The Kentucky Colonels thought they were going to get in. They didn't. To this day, those folks in Kentucky will say that they got screwed out of being in the NBA. Just saying. This day in 1989, this was interesting. The Quebec Nordiques select Swedish center Matt Sundin as a number 1 pick overall in the NHL draft, the first time a European player was taken with the first pick overall. Tyler should have been here for this one. 1990, he got it right, by the way. I asked him in a commercial break. 1990, 50-year-old Harry Gant becomes the oldest driver to win a NASCAR race. 1990 at Miller 500 at Pocono. 1992, the Philadelphia 76ers trade Charles Barkley to the Phoenix Suns. Barkley led the Phoenix Suns to the NBA Finals, where they lost to Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. The Suns traded Jeff Hornacek, Tim Perry, and Andrew Lang in that deal. Now, Hornacek was a solid player, ended up in Utah putting up some really nice numbers back in the day. He was there when Karl Malone and John Stockton were there. Tim Perry was a guy I believe played at Temple, if my memory serves me, and he was an okay pro. Andrew Lang was just like a big. So, obviously, the Suns won that trade. Jeff Hornacek was good in Philly, but he's just not Charles Barkley. All right, 1994, Dave. Let's hit this sucker. This day in 1994 on June 17th, hit cut 7.
The only substantive development in the investigation into the murder of Simpson's ex-wife was confirmation that she and the other victim were stabbed to death.
His attorney has already had discussions with police regarding arrangements by which Simpson would turn himself in.
Game 5 of the finals resumes tomorrow night at the Garden in New York.
Tomorrow, a victory celebration for the Rangers, but that's just the beginning.
Tomorrow, the 94th U.S. Open at Oakmont.
With suffocating heat and humidity forecast for the World Cup opener tomorrow.
A football legend remains in the crosshairs.
The prime suspect.
He was questioned.
Blood found at the scene.
Startling arrest. The Knicks.
That's all the stuff going on this day in 1994. Front and center was O.J. Simpson. And if you remember this was like the real beginning of crazy celebrity stuff. It was surreal. I'll never forget a young Terry Ford. Your TV was split screen because the Knicks and the Rockets are playing in the NBA Finals. So your TV is split screened or quarter screened, and part of the screen has O.J. Simpson in the white Bronco driving down, I believe, was it I-5 or the freeway in L.A., following him are a bunch of LAPD, and he's driving like 25, 30 miles an hour, whatever it was. It was so bizarre because O.J. said he had a gun, he was going to kill himself, so they're not coming after him like police would typically come after a vehicle that had a murder suspect in it. They're following the white Bronco. It's driving really slow on the freeway, and on the other side of the TV is the NBA Finals with the Rockets and the Knicks. So strange. Never forget it. O.J. drives, I believe, drove to his house in Brentwood. And I believe the police surround the house. He goes in, finally comes out, and turns himself in. And we all know if this was just a schmo, if this was David Dare or Terry Ford, first of all, the police would have ran us off the road and handcuffed us after they beat the snot out of us if we did anything to resist. But it was O.J. Have you ever watched that 30 for 30? The documentary of Simpson. Multiple part documentary. The idea that Simpson's celebrity was so gigantic in Southern California that he just skated by with what he was doing to his wife is unbelievable. There is a scene, if you haven't seen it, where Nicole Simpson is hiding in the bushes. She's called the police and she's hiding in the bushes because she's so scared of Simpson because he had once again assaulted her. The police show up. She's in the bushes. But O.J. comes out and turns on the O.J. charm. And he doesn't get arrested on the spot, if my memory serves me, in the documentary. Or if he did, he was let out on his own recognizance or on bail or whatever, and it was all, O.J. was signing autographs. That's what I remember from that part. She's hiding in the bushes, fearful of her life, and the officer is getting an autograph. Hey, O.J., can I have your autograph? That documentary is it's wild. It's unreal. The other one was she went out with, I think it was an actor, Nicole Simpson. I think it was an actor at that time. And he was at Nicole's house, which was O.J.'s former house. And Nicole and him are like upstairs, and he looks out the window, and O.J.'s standing in the yard. Yeah, creepy. And he said to himself right there, maybe this is not the right relationship for me. But just the document, the 30 for 30 is unbelievable. But that's this day in 1994, O.J. and the white Bronco. Craziness. All right, also a lot of Stanley Cup final stuff and a lot of U.S. Open stuff on this day. The Celtics won their 17th NBA title in 2008. This is the Doc Rivers, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen crew. They beat Kobe and the Lakers I believe it was in 6 games. And then in 2010 on this day, the Lakers returned the favor, beating Boston in Game 7 to repeat as NBA champions. That was the Kobe, Pau Gasol squad that went back-to-back. Rory McIlroy won the U.S. Open on this day in 2011. Webb Simpson, Brooks Koepka won his 2nd straight. Also, let's see, Angel Cabrera held off Tiger Woods and Jim Furyk to win the Open in 2007. So you had a lot of U.S. Open. Payne Stewart, the late Payne Stewart, won in 1991 with a 2-stroke victory over Scott Simpson. Of course, the tragedy that was what happened to Payne Stewart. And then finally, on this day last year, the Celtics beat the Dallas Mavericks in Game 5 to win the NBA championship. Jaylen Brown was the MVP. That's the greatest day in the history of the world. We will pop back to our handoff to Jay Phillips, sponsored by Little Pigs in Alpine for the postgame show. Also, we will talk about we've got a massive injury. I don't know. Might have a guy that might have to go on the IL here, Dave. I'm limping around all over the place. We'll talk about that and do our Firehouse Sub text. We have 2 texts to get to for the Firehouse Sub text hour. One's kind of funny. That's coming up next here on the postgame show. Whatever hell show it is, Dave. Just give me a break. Halftime show. Terry Ford, David Dare on the game. Get our Firehouse sub text the hour. Also, roll our handoff, sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine with our bud Jay Phillips. All right, 2 things real quick there, Jay. I'll bring you on the old Firehouse sub text the hour. 2 texts. Text 1. We're talking about the thing in the athletic post about LaNorris Sellers.
Yeah.
One of the things that struck me was more and more the family dynamic. Like when, the dad, Norris, looked at him and said, kid, no 19-year-old needs $8 million.
Yeah, you
don't need $8 million. Because I was joking, we were joking about it on the show here. I was kidding with the guys in the early game. I said, first of all, I can see my dad, who grew up in the hills of North Carolina, rolling cigarettes, shooting possums for dinner. I can see my dad going, boy, you just going to whiz away that $8 million. Don't even do it. You ain't worth it. Don't do it. You're going to be stupid. You don't need that money. I
can see my granddad from, St. George, South Carolina. So same thing. Going like, what are you going to do with that?
But what I thought was impressive is LaNorris like this. Okay, Pops, you're right. Yeah. And done. Now, the 19-year-old Terry Ford, yeah, Dad, my driver's license says I'm 19. I think I'm going to take the money.
Yeah,
Thanks for the advice, though.
I've registered for the draft. Yeah. Therefore, I'm an adult now.
I could see me taking the $8 million. Of course, my dad would have been right. I would have whizzed it away.
Oh, hell yeah.
No doubt. We were talking about what I would have done. I would have done a lot of things, legal and illegal, with that money.
I wanted. Remember the old Honda Prelude from the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, Prelude was kind of cool, man.
I wanted either the black one or the that really cool for a little while banana yellow one. I'd have just bought like 20.
Nice.
They'd all been the same.
Sweet. You know what I would have wanted?
Why not, right?
You know what I would have wanted? I loved this car when I was a kid. Thunderbird convertible.
The T-Bird, when it came back out.
I love the T-Bird convertible, dude.
Yeah. So I'd have bought like 20 of those, too.
Yeah.
And then
Forget the Camaros.
How much do I have left? After 20 Preludes and 20 T-Birds.
Yeah. I'd have been dumb. I would have been dumb. So
I'd have been like our guy that won the lottery and they got arrested because he went to the hotel with the inflatable water slide.
Yes.
I'd have gone to the inflatable water slide place.
Texter said, if my dad told me that I didn't need $8 million, I'd just tell him I was trying to get ahead of the inflation and cost of living issues that young people experience.
Yeah. Well, look, in all seriousness, LaNorris is being well compensated and deservedly so.
Well, think about this, Jay. It's a 2-year deal was what we hear, right?
Yeah,
2 years, $8 million.
That's what they said. Yeah.
So
and I believe him.
So he's getting like $1 million now. He's getting 3.6 roughly is what the rumors are. So he's not, if everything goes right, he's only going to be in school for 1 more year anyway.
Correct. If he has the year that we all want him to have, then he will be in next April's draft. And if he has the year we all really, really want him to have, then he's going to be a top 10, maybe 5.
He's going to make a lot more than the $8 million.
He's going to be fine.
Yes. Other texter, this is funny. Terry Ford sounds like Chris Farley. I put that together and I can't unhear it. I've gotten Sam Kinison in my life.
Now, Sam Kinison, I might get.
I've gotten Sam Kinison.
Yeah, Chris, I suppose if there's a couple of Farley characters when they get going.
Yeah.
But there's also Chris Farley that I would not. I'd never thought that.
I'm not Van down by the river. That doesn't sound like.
No, I never thought that.
No, I never thought. Again, I've heard Kinison a bunch of times in my life because I got the same kind of scratchy voice or whatever, like I'm gargling razor blades like Kinison.
Move to where the food is.
I'll never forget. First time I saw Kinison. Rodney Dangerfield's Young Comedians on HBO.
The showcase,
and that's where he did it.
Yeah.
Go where the food is! Or the one, he goes, he's like, Sam. He goes, I got people come to me all the time, Sam, why do you always say all these bad things about your exes? And you say bad things about women. Why do you do that, Sam? He looks at the camera and goes, because a man's never broke my heart and ripped it out of my chest and stomped on it. I love Kinison. Kinison was so
He was
good.
great.
Love Kinison.
Good stuff.
So anyway, all right.
I haven't gotten that one. Okay, I'll listen to you more often and see if I can
with
put
Chris
that too.
Farley. Yeah, see if I got any Chris Farley.
I just think of Chris Farley. My favorite Chris Farley is like Chris Farley show, like the Paul McCartney. Hey, you remember when you're in the Beatles? Yeah,
Farley was good, man.
He's like, yeah.
Farley was good.
That was
no doubt.
That was.
I loved him as a Chippendale.
Yeah.
You can't unsee that either.
Yeah, no.
Can't unsee that either. All right, so. You've got a special guest on this little shindig.
Yeah, Coach Annan's going to stop in and talk a little Club World Cup. Of course, Carolina is hosting one of those teams, Fluminense from Brazil. They actually played a German team today, Dortmund, a draw.
All right, and we didn't get this because the music's playing.
Yeah.
We got a 30-year-old guy out there, starts playing softball, blows a hammy.
Hurt himself. I told him to stretch.
I did too.
But he's 8 feet tall. It's hard to stretch.
Well, all I know is this. You're 30 and you're knocking out hammies.
Hope he's going to be okay.
You know, he lifts a lot of crap beer to his mouth. You figure he'd be a lot more anyway.
Wrong muscles.
All right, post-game show come. Dave, Tyler, go.